All right, welcome back, guys.
This is going to be part 2, where we talk about the Terminator, the X-Men, and the Unbreakable trilogy. And we get a little bit deeper into the Unbreakable trilogy.
Hope you enjoyed part 1, and we hope you will enjoy part 2.
Speaking of unnecessary,
We're on Terminator.
Terminator.
All right, so I ranked this one number 2.
Number 2
for me. Okay. But when you're getting into these top 5, it's really just a matter of opinion. What's different on these?
Yeah.
See, for Terminator.
All right, so which of these movies do you dislike? Would you say you dislike any of them?
Everything after number 3.
Everything after number 3. Okay. See, I want to talk about number 3 because that was one of the, at the time I was very critical of it, but after Salvation, Genesis, and Dark Fate, I'm like, hey, number 3 wasn't too bad.
This is the way I kind of categorized them. The first Terminator, it was Arnold. That defined Arnold Schwarzenegger's career.
Absolutely.
There would be no Arnold Schwarzenegger other movies without Terminator.
Absolutely.
God, what year was that?
81?
81?
I think so. Let me see.
There's nothing happening in 81 that's anywhere near that type of movie.
84, excuse me.
84,
yeah.
Okay. And then they come back with Terminator 2, which, what I read on my notes, is the greatest sequel of all times.
I'd agree with that.
I think it's...
91.
I saw that, and I was driving at that point in high school, and I would get off my work at, oh my goodness, it's not CVS, it was whoever CVS bought, a little drugstore up here. Get off work at like 9 and try to drive to Salem, which was like 30 minutes away, as fast as I could get there, so I could go see the 9 o'clock showing of that. And I think I saw it in the theater something like 10 or 12 times.
See, that was Matrix for me. I saw the Matrix in the theater like a dozen times. Yeah,
that was me being a new driver,
yeah.
Having the freedom to go
having
do
some
stuff.
Freedom, let's go.
And it was like, that just happened to coincide with one of the most awesome movies that's ever hit the screen.
Yeah, if you're going to watch a movie over and over again, that's a good one.
I would literally call like any of my friends and be like, hey, you want to go see Terminator 2? And like, yeah, just come get me. I actually got stopped in Salem speeding to go see there and was let off without a ticket, thank goodness. But
I don't know if I would say it's the greatest sequel of all time, but I do think Terminator 2 Judgment Day is the quintessential sequel. Like, this is how sequels should be. This is...
I've gone through and rank it against... The only things that I can even rank close to it are the other ones on this list.
Yeah.
In terms of sequels.
And I've watched it relatively recently, in the past few years, again, and it holds up. There is no part of that film that does it. Like, the only part that's a little hinky is when the T-1000 walks through the bars. Yeah. That's the only part, but it's still good.
The scene with her dreaming about the bomb going off while she's watching John play, that's just one of the most striking things I've ever seen on film. It literally just gave you cold chills watching it. Just, it's one of those things. It's almost like the car wreck, on the side of the road. It's like you know it's awful. You want to see it though every time it happens because it's just so beyond what you could imagine something like that being. I haven't seen anything shot like that since the did you watch Fallout, the Fallout series?
The series, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Loved it. That opening part where they were talking about, was it like
your thumb?
The thumb
if
measurement.
It's the size of your thumb.
And how
that's BS, but
and how it like but how it like went silent.
Yeah.
With there, and you just see the flash, and you see like the little girl like starting to put her thumb up, and you're like, oh my goodness! Like, that was one of the most genius things I've seen shot probably in the last 5 years. That's the only thing I can think of that compares to that scene of Sarah on the fence, watching it blow up and then everybody burn and then blown into ash. And you're like, wow. It's like, we need to pause the movie and just sit here for a second and soak that in, every time you see that. But, and her too, as an actress in that one, of all the attempts to be girl boss things and everything that happens here recently, that's she and Sigourney Weaver are the only two that are, I think, deserve those thrones. And her in that movie, I think it's probably the first time I've ever seen sort of like a mainstream Hollywood actress get like cut and ripped for a movie.
Right.
And I liked it.
She did.
I liked it.
She definitely did that. When she was doing the pull-ups on the bed.
Yeah.
That's a great scene.
Yeah.
Beat up, I don't know his name, the doctor. That was wonderful.
That poor doctor. That poor doctor is probably like part of why I like the third one.
Probably.
It's because he's just like broken at this point, and every time he wakes up here, he turns around, there's another Arnold. He's just like, get me out of this world. But,
all right, so we both love the second one. First one, what about the first one?
Say it one more time.
The first film. We didn't really talk about the first film. What do you...
I mean, just the parts of that I always love seeing again when I go back and watch it were the little, and they were short, but the little glimpses into the future world with the tanks and the running over the skulls and stuff. And
iconic imagery.
It's the one thing that has always killed me about that is we've never gotten a film that just takes place in that world.
Yeah.
It's like if you ever wanted to make anything after 3, it should have just been we can't
John
stop
Connor
this.
in the future.
We can't stop this from happening. Let's just make a whole thing happen, and let's just, it's going to run its course. You can't change fate.
Now, I didn't include this on the little picture that we have up. You ever seen Sarah Connor Chronicles?
Yeah.
Okay, that's one of my favorite series of all time. I absolutely loved it. I think it was a perfect series for the Terminator series, for the Terminator franchise.
How close to that was the Clone Wars and stuff?
That was, I think it was 2009.
Okay. Because that seemed to me like that was a live action thing trying to do the same thing and trying to bridge this gap and go right into a film was what they were trying to do with that series.
Seemed like it.
And
2008 is when it came out. Yeah.
Okay, so it was a little bit after that,
but that is where that series I think was trying to go.
Yeah.
Was because if I recall correctly, that series ended with John getting pushed to the future into the future war.
Yeah. And
he was left abandoned there.
Well, talking about the series that tried to wrap up, I think they found out like they were not getting renewed like very late in that series. Yeah. So they tried to close it out in 2 episodes or something because it just shifted gears from like this pretty well developed good story to let's kill some people and ship him off.
We may at some point do a topic of series or movies we want to see return. That would be one for me. I don't generally care for like reboots of series, but the Sarah Connor Chronicles, they could start next year and they could keep the same timeline and be like, okay, well, it's 15 years later. John Connor's been in the future war for 15 years. Yeah. And you can make up something about why Sarah didn't die of cancer.
The way the rest of the movies go, you can make up whatever you want to do.
Yeah, of course.
They started making up crap in the other ones. While you're on the Chronicles, what is the male Terminator in that actor's name?
I don't know, but he is in a show called Raising Hope.
Because he was in the Fear the Walking Dead. He was like the guy that used to be a deputy, and he was like a trick shooter and stuff. He's the only reason I liked Fear the Walking Dead is because he was in it. He's
one of those actors where you're like, hey, I know him. Garrett Dillahunt.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great.
He's one of those guys too that's just if he's in something, I'll watch it because he's there.
Yeah.
And
he did a great job.
Him singing "Donald, where's your trousers" from the Irish Rovers was just like. I listened to the Irish Rovers with my dad driving around in a car like on weekends when he had to go to the dump and do like chores and stuff. So like that was another thing that was just like a memory like key in my brain that part of that just burned into my mind of him singing that. And then you had Shirley Manson from Garbage playing the other one.
Oh yes,
that was.
You know, respect to Garrett for playing the male Terminator, like a follow up to Arnold.
Yeah,
those some big shoes to fill, and I think he did a great job.
Yeah,
I really do.
Yeah, I thought he was a great Terminator, and
I loved what they were doing with Shirley Manson narratively. Yeah. I really liked what they were, how they were trying to explain Skynet in our more futuristic world. Like, well, it's not just artificial intelligent machine. It's like a conglomeration of all these different machines, and there's multiple Skynets being developed at once, and they'll vie for that position. A lot better than some of these other movies handled it.
I was big into alt rock stuff back then, and just her being in anything was just another plus for me. I crushed on her really hard back then.
So I would definitely put the Sarah Connor Chronicles with Terminator, Terminator 2, Terminator 3, Sarah Connor Chronicles. To me, that is Terminator, to me.
And that was supposed to transition into the 4th one, the Christian Bale movie.
I don't know, maybe.
I think that was what the
premise.
I think that's what the plan was supposed to be.
Okay.
And that was just going to be the early years of the war that you couldn't stop.
Mm-hmm.
But then Christian Bale forgot that he wasn't still playing Batman and just walked around.
Yeah, I thought I remember hearing about there being some sort of not with Christian Bale. I know he was yelling at people and stuff like that. But narrative, like with the script, there was some sort of like conflict with the script while the movie was being made or something like that.
It looked like it because the movie itself seems like it's a conflict with the script.
Oh yeah.
But the only thing I even really remember that much about that was you found the factory where they were making the Arnold Schwarzenegger models en masse.
That's what brought people into the theater.
Yeah.
You saw that glimpse of that one scene. You're like, I want to see that.
Yeah. And outside of that, it was pretty forgettable beyond
Didn't
that.
There was some sort of plot point where there was someone who had it was like a human with, no, he was a Terminator, but he thought he was a human.
That was,
that was like the main character.
What's the guy from the Avatar movies, the Blue Avatar?
I don't know. I want to say Guy Courtney or something.
No, that's Jay Courtney's in the
Jay
later.
Courtney.
He's in one of the later movies. He's the guy that plays Kyle later.
Okay.
But I can't remember.
Bringing it up.
I got Christian Bale in my head, and I can picture this guy,
Sam Worthington.
Yeah.
Okay, so Christian Bale is John Connor.
Yeah.
Okay, I guess we'll go back and talk about 3.
And
but
that's the other one I remember. Anton
Yelchin, R.I.P.
Plays the young Kyle Reese. That was probably one of the other better castings in that movie. But
yes.
Kind of underused though. It just doesn't seem like his character did that much.
I don't feel like Christian Bale was a good John Connor.
Yeah.
He's good at what he does. He is a good actor.
He was good at talking like Batman all through that movie.
But he just didn't exude a leadership aura.
It's in the second movie, right? In T2, where they show like John Connor sort of standing there overseeing like a battle.
Yeah, he has like a scar on his face.
Like a big scar.
Yeah.
Like, that needed to be John Connor.
Mm-hmm.
Whoever that was, or find somebody that kind of looked like that. That was always the image I had in my head because I saw Terminator 2 so many times, and anybody that was outside of that was just wrong. But
so about Terminator 3. I know I said that I was critical of Terminator 3 at the time, but I appreciate it now. What are your thoughts on that?
The note that I wrote about Terminator 3 is it's the first movie I could think of that was tropey, where he was doing a lot of the things from the second movie. And
yeah, I did not like that.
And that kind of stuff. And
because I still question how did that model know those things from the second movie?
Yeah, just the pandering, probably one of those early attempts at pandering to some nostalgia kind of stuff worked into the movie. And I don't know, I guess that's the involvement of having Arnold in those movies. Beyond that is that might have been the thing that could have changed the path of those movies and made them better, was to kind of cut ties with Arnold and not just keep working him back in, finding some weird way to work him back into every movie, because it just kind of got tiring with that.
Well, I think establishing the fact that there are other models. I mean, that in the first film, they showed that there are other models of Terminators.
Yeah.
And while I do think Arnold Schwarzenegger is a fantastic actor, he is the Terminator.
Yeah.
I do think they could have benefited from going a different direction at some point.
Because it just becomes everything else kind of orbiting around him. And
it's the Luke Skywalker problem.
Yeah.
Like the Terminator shouldn't be about Arnold Schwarzenegger as a Terminator. Terminator is about the threat of Skynet.
Yeah. And they did that well in the third movie, I thought, where you got to where they're developing some of the systems, and you saw early versions of the hunter killers and things like that. And
plot wise, I was happy with Terminator 3.
Yeah.
I agree that the stuff that kind of pulled it down was the hokey parts.
Yeah.
With Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah.
With the callbacks.
I don't know if that's something to do with my age, or if that's just the fact that we've seen so many movies that we've seen people make these same attempted jokes through so many different things that I don't want your attempts at bad jokes anymore in any movie that I watch. And most of these movies that we're going to talk about, they've all got the same thing. They've got these same just hokey attempts at humor that are supposed to be callbacks to something else, and it's like, we know what the movie before was. That's why we're at the third one. We saw the first two. You don't need to tell us what happened in the first two again. Yeah. You know.
No, I also was. I'm still critical of Nick Stahl as John Connor. I think that was a major miscast.
Yeah. I've seen a couple things he was in that were okay, but yeah, he was not a.
I'm looking at his. You've seen Fear of the Walking Dead, so you would know him from that.
Yeah.
Sin City. He was. I think he was great in Sin City. I think he's a fine actor. Yeah. Again, he's not John Connor.
From Terminator 2, everything from that point should be him getting tougher and more developed as John Connor, and he's still like a cracked out junkie in that one, and he's
like given up on the idea of the future war at that point. In the film, he thought his mom was nuts because it never happened.
Another thing I liked about that too is like where what was the female Terminator?
Christina Loken.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Is that Species? No.
She might have been in one of the Species, one of the later ones.
Okay. You're not the original Species though.
She was Blood Rain.
Oh, okay. But yeah, her going around and just hunting down the other lieutenants and stuff. I like that part of it where she's just pulling up to like the drive-through and like, "Are you Jill? Whatever." Like, yeah, kapow. And I was like, right, wow, okay.
That is one of that character is one of the criticisms of Terminator 3. I think it was fine. I have no issues with the with the expanding breasts. That was one of the issues people had with the character. Because that makes sense for a Terminator to do that.
That's like what 5 seconds of the movie.
Yeah, I have no problem with the endoskeleton with the liquid metal exoskeleton, the covering. I think that was a great way to combine the strengths of both previous Terminators that we saw. Mm-hmm. It like makes sense for a third film. Yeah. Well, here's a new Terminator that combines the other two. I think it was a great design.
Yeah.
Again,
the whole thing with the time travel
it fell
stuff
apart
too.
Afterwards, but okay.
The whole time travel stuff too, that you can go to the future and develop something for 50 years and then send it back to the same time. Mm-hmm. I'm fine with the next Terminator that comes back is going to be 50 years more advanced than the last one. But
so she wasn't in any Species films.
Okay.
I thought she might have been, but I guess not.
Just another
blonde actress.
Another blonde that looked like one of the other ones.
Yeah.
But then what followed that up was Genesis, right?
No, the direct right after that was Salvation. But we've already spoken.
Yeah.
Talked about Salvation.
Yeah, after Salvation.
But after that was Genesis, yeah.
My note on that was John Connor as a nanobot.
Yeah, essentially. Yeah.
That's all I've got. I was just, that broke that story down into such ridiculous stuff at that point. J.K. Simmons is in it. Mm-hmm. That's the only thing I can think of that's redeeming in that is he's one of my favorite actors, and he played a cool part there. But outside of that, man, I don't even know what to say about that one. It was just a rehashing of tropes, I guess is the right word.
My criticisms of Genesis is very much like some of the criticisms I've had of the third. It's casting. That's the problem I have. Yeah. I don't even know the actor's name that played
John Connor.
John Connor. Yeah, Nanobot John Connor. He didn't seem like John Connor.
Yeah. I think physically he could have looked more like what I wanted from the second one. Yeah. But he's I don't think it was the right actor either.
Turning John Connor into a nanobot machine. Okay, first of all, this is across the board. I'm tired of nanotechnology in films, just across the board. Yeah. It's visually boring. But having John Connor be this Terminator nanobot thing just seemed disrespectful to the character and to the franchise as a whole. Yeah. It was like this is what the franchise is about. John Connor is the hope of mankind. Yep. Unlike Dune, where it's like the whole purpose of Paul is to be like a warning against Messiah figures. Yeah. Terminator is about having saying that the one person can give hope. All you need is one person to give humanity.
If you don't keep this dude alive, we're done.
Yeah, yeah, and it's about having that Messiah type figure and it paying off. So I think that was really important for the franchise is to have John Connor. John Connor is the reason we win out in the end.
And if you seemed like that's a pretty good time to jump to the last one.
Jump right to the last one.
Or Dark Fate, they're just sitting at a bar and like Cabo and John Connor they get ambushed and shot because that would happen.
That scene was amazing. That proved to me that they could just make a whole nother Terminator film with a young John Connor, a young Sarah Connor, and it would look great. Maybe if I watched it today, maybe it'd seem a little not as impressive. But at the time when I saw it, I've only seen it once, I thought it was spot on.
Yeah.
Fantastic work. Whoever the CG guys did, they did a great job.
Yeah. That's something positive to say about it.
That's pretty much it. That's it.
I thought, here's my note for Dark Fate. Was about immigration or something.
Something.
I don't know.
Narratively, I'm fine with the idea of... I'm fine with the idea of the series going away from John Connor, even though I think that is John Connor's perseverance is the core of the Terminator franchise, as far as I'm concerned. But
anybody that's coming back to it is there to see the story get to the point where John Connor saves the world.
Right, exactly.
And it never happens.
and if they want to take the story in a different direction, that's fine. But just replacing one John Connor with another John Connor is lazy.
I'm checked out. I watched that movie because it was available on something. I don't know if it was on a streaming service or saw it in a hotel while I was traveling or something, but it was one of those things I just watched because I didn't want to watch reruns of the Family Feud or whatever it was, whatever the other option was. And when I was done, I was like, man, I wonder what was on Family Feud because that movie did absolutely nothing for me.
And what they had for Sarah Connor, I thought was disappointing. Having her be stuck in this moment of her past and where she's just living her life, hunting down rogue Terminators that pop up here and there. It kind of gave me this similar... I had similar issues with it that I had with the Spider-Man No Way Home. Did you ever see that with the 3 Spider-Men?
Yeah.
Okay. When those 3 Spider-Men are talking to each other, they're like, oh, I fought an alien once. They only talk about the battles that we saw on the screen.
Yeah.
Like, they didn't grow at all since we saw them last in their last film.
Yeah.
They've done nothing. And that's kind of how I felt with Sarah Connor. It's like, okay, we saw that one scene where John was killed, and then nothing. She got stuck in this one note where, oh, well, I'm a Terminator killer, and that's all I do. Yeah. Come on.
What would have been wrong with the storyline where she met somebody that could help protect her, got married, built a bunker, and they just waited it out?
Yeah, that would have been fine.
I would have watched that.
Yeah,
but we can't have her get help from any of us nasty guys.
No. Okay, another good thing I can say about Dark Fate is I thought she was a human that was augmented with technology, right?
Yeah.
The
girl.
The main, I guess you would call her the main protagonist. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, whoever. Her. I thought that was a cool idea because unlike
why not make Sarah Connor that? Why not just have her be, if she's the one that's trying to get John to the finish line, just augment her and let her be Robo Sarah Connor.
See, I would have, that would have been interesting if the person that came back was another human, because we haven't seen a human come back since the first film. And that human came back with knowledge and technology to augment Sarah. See, that would have been cool. I would have been happy with that. That would have been cool.
That would explain why she could still be able to fight instead of being a 60 to 70-year-old woman running around shooting rockets at people and getting a bad haircut.
What did you think?
Whatever else happened in that one.
What did you think of the woman who plays in Game of Thrones? You know what I'm talking about? That she played Sarah Connor?
From the Genesis.
From Genesis, yeah. What did you think of her portrayal of Sarah Connor?
It was where chronologically was that even supposed to happen? Was it supposed to happen after Terminator 2? Because it seemed to me like she was a younger version of Sarah Connor and less capable.
I think it was supposed... No, because did she have John at that point? No, it happened at the same time as Terminator.
Okay.
The first film.
Okay. Yeah, as I was gonna say, because
Yeah,
she
'cause Kyle-
definitely wasn't like the badass that she was in number 2.
Right.
And
yeah, no, the plot of that is the Terminator went back even farther and started her training as a child. That's the plot of that.
I got you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you kind of have to remember.
That's why I don't go back to rewatch those movies because it's such a just chasing a unicorn around trying to figure out what it was they were trying to do with the story when there's so many simple things that could have been good.
In retrospect, I kind of feel like Genesis, despite the nanobot John Connor, the people who made it seem like they were at least trying to like pay homage to the series.
Yeah.
Like they seem like they might have been fans.
Yeah.
I don't know about Dark Fate. Dark Fate to me is read as a corporate boardroom written piece of schlock.
Yeah. Just 30 people were involved in writing this and they all got their ideas included so they could be seen.
I think I know you ranked yours. I think for me personally, Terminator is probably the most mismanaged.
Yeah.
Because I think it had the highest high and the lowest low. Where Terminator is now for me, and with a lot of these actually, where Terminator lives is in the extra material. Like there's a Terminator video game that came out a few years ago that's fantastic.
Okay.
The Terminator comic books are decent. I don't even know. I'm assuming they're still making them. I know the Dark Horse ones from years ago.
Yeah.
So I think that's really where, like, if you're a Terminator fan, you watch the first 3, watch Sarah Connor Chronicle, and then go to the other media.
Yeah, I can see that. So next.
Speaking of other media, X-Men.
X-Men was what I ranked as my number 1.
Number 1, okay.
And it's because there's such a massive amount of content. And I'll give you a run through of everything I listed.
All right.
I got into it from the 90s cartoon, the same one that I think we both kind of grew up on.
Mm-hmm.
Then there was the first one, the X2, the third one. Then it goes
Last Stand.
Then it goes to Origins Wolverine.
Mm-hmm.
Then the First Class. Mm-hmm. Then the Wolverine in Japan. Mm-hmm. That's just the Wolverine.
The Wolverine.
Days of Future Past. Mm-hmm. Then Deadpool. Then the Apocalypse.
Okay, yeah.
Then Logan. Mm-hmm. Then Deadpool 2.
Okay.
Then the Dark Phoenix. Okay. Then the New Mutants.
Oh, goodness.
And then back to Deadpool and Wolverine.
Okay.
That's the...
I forgot about Dark Phoenix. I just completely forgot about that.
Well, you should have. It was awful.
Sansa Stark did not make a good Jean Grey.
Yeah. The first one is kind of like Terminator was for Arnold. Mm-hmm. It gave Hugh Jackman a career. It probably was one of the best castings that I think I've seen. Everybody wanted there to be a cool Wolverine, and they gave us a cool Wolverine. And I was one of the ones at the time that was very critical. I thought he was too pretty. Yeah. I thought I was like, this guy, he can't be Wolverine. Come on. Yeah. No, I was so wrong. Yes. It was fantastic casting. And then I think, again, they came back from that movie. The movie was kind of vanilla. It was just... But I also think it was... Maybe I'm wrong on this. I think it was the first big live-action team superhero movie that I can think of. First one that I ever watched. I'm gonna look this up. Because, let's see, was it 1999, right? Yeah, pretty close to that same time frame as The Matrix and stuff. Yeah, those are a couple of great years. It was, it says 2000. So it was just a little bit after. Yeah. I don't think at least for me, I'd never seen anything that wasn't, a Spider-Man movie or a Superman movie that was actually a whole bunch of superheroes that I knew in a live-action movie. So that was kind of a new thing for me. Well, one of the things about the X-Men film is it was influenced by The Matrix. Okay. The black leather. Oh yeah. That's the worst part of the movie. Is like just put them in the outfits. It's like they've got outfits that have been in the comics forever. The funniest thing about like watching the extras was them like when they're at Staten Island or where the Statue of Liberty is. They're in the leather suits and watching the actors trying to crawl like from where they get off the boat up onto the thing and how they're all just rolling over like dogs in sweaters. Because they could not move. And I was like, why did y'all do that? It's like, you're just going to put them in spandex in their outfits and it would have been fine. Have you ever seen Mystery Men? No. You asked if it was the first major team film. Mystery Men was released in 1999. That's why I had to look it up because I wasn't sure the time frame. But would anybody that's like just walking around a Comic-Con even know what that is? No, it's not a major release at all. Yeah. The property of Mystery Men came from a series called The Flaming Carrot. I've seen little clips of it. I thought about watching it. I never have. Like I've seen the Hank Azaria with the spoons and.
I absolutely recommend it. It is. I would probably put it in my top 10 films of all time. I absolutely love this film, and it was funny and enjoyable and poignant in 1999. Okay. Today, after like all the X-Men films and all the Avenger films and all these superhero films, it's even more poignant. It's even more applicable to the themes and the commentary of the movie. It's great. Watch it. Absolutely.
I will. I've stayed away from it because of some of the people involved. I just can't see how that could be good.
I mean, Ben Stiller rags on it. Ben Stiller hates it, but it's great.
Yeah.
But anyway, back to X-Men.
Kind of vanilla story with that. Then they came back with the X2 with the lake, and you get a little bit of like origins of Wolverine and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. I thought it was. I'm not gonna say it was another. It was like another great sequel. Definitely not like in the best sequels of all time, but it definitely outdid the first one, I think.
Absolutely, yeah. I would not be shy saying that I think the X2 was a much better film overall than the first X-Men. Absolutely.
You started to get what everybody wanted and what I wanted. I'm sure it's what most other people wanted. Is you wanted to see as many X-Men brought to real life as possible.
Yeah.
You got little glimpses. You didn't get enough. You see like Colossus, but like he spoke for a second and he didn't speak Russian, and I'm like, what? It's like, no, don't let him speak anymore. Fix that next movie. And like one of the big characters from the cartoon was Jubilee, and there was a Jubilee that was cast in there, and I think basically all you ever do is like see maybe her arm when they're sitting in a classroom. I'm like, what happened to Jubilee? But so there were little pieces of that were just unsatisfying, but. And then you start to get into the whole story with, I didn't write down my characters in this thing, and my brain's not going to dig all this out. What's the doctor, the guy that helped create Wolverine?
Kilbrew, right? Or am I thinking X2?
The guy that, is it Brian?
Yes, there's going to be so many people. Well, continue.
I was trying to think of the guy, Brian O'Connor or whatever the guy is that plays him. Plays the
William Stryker.
Brian Cox plays William Stryker.
Yeah, Kilbrew's a Deadpool character. Sorry.
I think they kind of start to mess up the canon story a little bit with that one, but kind of stay close enough that it's satisfying, I guess. And then it kind of gets to the thing at the end where they introduce the idea of the Phoenix. And it's like, that's kind of a weird way to do that too. Was excited about the fact that maybe they were going to do that next, but
their idea of the Phoenix wasn't really a cosmic origin. It was just the final manifestation of Jean's powers.
That whole arc from the old cartoon, and I'm assuming it's from the comics. I've never gone back to collect X-Men comics, with the Hellfire Club and what was her name, Lilandra, the alien lady that had a whole team full of other no idea, super alien people that were all trying to help stop the Phoenix from destroying like the sun or the planets and taking over the universe. Yeah, I love that whole arc of the cartoon, and I was like, well, maybe they're going to try to introduce some of those people into the next movie, and maybe that's where we'll get to. And this was just a little hint at the Phoenix, and of course, then the third movie happened. That's where we kind of started to go off the rails. Yeah,
I think everybody is in agreement that the third is where they dropped the ball.
Yeah, I mean I can never get past the fact that the Juggernaut was not the story of the Juggernaut. It was just he was a mutant. The Juggernaut's he's one of the character's brothers, right? Is he Xavier's brother?
Xavier's brother. Yep.
Finds a little thing in a cave, becomes the massive Juggernaut. Yeah. He's not a mutant, and they ruin that, and then.
As someone who's not a fan of the Juggernaut, like I didn't follow his origin and all that. Yeah. I thought it was a cool character.
Yeah, I loved him from the cartoon. I like the ideas of Wolverine and Colossus and some. What they actually did in the Deadpool movies.
I'm about to say so far from what you're saying between Colossus and Juggernaut, I feel like you probably think that Deadpool did both of them justice.
Yeah. I think I must not be the only person that probably felt that way, because it seems like they intentionally tried to do that, and Deadpool Deadpool 2 was trying to get that out there. So I can't remember what else happened in that thing.
Speaking of doing character justice, one of the characters I really liked from the X-Men cartoon, because I think we're both in the same here, where we really became fans of the X-Men because of the cartoon, not so much the comics. I bought maybe 6 or 7 of the X-Men comics growing up. I was never really, because it was so much, I didn't know where to go or whatever. But one of the characters I really loved from the cartoon was Nightcrawler.
Yes.
Alan Cumming as Nightcrawler, fantastic casting. I think it was a great...
From the second movie?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That whole scene, that's probably one of the best. I forgot about that. That's probably one of the best scenes of the second movie, where he's popping through the White House and just like sticks the tail by the president's head. And I was like, that was a CGI accomplishment, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah.
At the time.
Still looks... I recently watched just that part, like on YouTube. I just watched that scene.
Yes.
Still looks fantastic.
Yeah.
Still looks great.
And I don't even... They tried to get into... I don't even remember the storylines. There was Angel and stuff in the third one, and they were going to have a...
Well, that's when they started... They were doing the cure thing.
That was supposed to be part of the Apocalypse story, from where he was kind of drawing people to... Was it Genosha? It was like the island they were going to go to, and he promised to help them, but he was just enslaving them. But they threw that half-ass into this storyline and had to keep on doing the Wolverine versus Cyclops and who loves Jean more thing.
I think the big problem with 3 is the lead up to Jean and the Dark Phoenix and all that, and she ended up just being a henchwoman. It's like it did not pay that storyline off at all.
That Wolverine could just go stop the Phoenix by stabbing her.
Yeah, just by stabbing her.
That's enough on that movie.
Cool visuals,
was trash. There's some
cool visuals. I liked the visuals where she was like, her power was burning the skin off. That was cool.
There's talking about comics. I bought comics because of the movies. Because after 1 and 2, I was kind of into that. They hadn't made the third one and crushed my spirit yet. They did a X-Men Unlimited or Unlimited X-Men. It was like a 100-issue series that I bought. I've tracked down all of. It was a retelling of stuff. Some of it was kind of trying to modernize some of it. I didn't like some of that. But there was an issue in there where there's this kid that gets his powers, and he's just like, he's nuclear. Like, he burns everybody in his town. Like, he wakes up and goes and sees like his parents' shoes in the kitchen, and like he's just obliterated everybody. Oof. And they send Wolverine in to go kill him because there's nothing else. He's so dangerous at this point. There's nothing you can do. And Wolverine ends up, I forget how they get there. He gets him away from town up to a cave and talks to him. But it's kind of like that part with the Phoenix in there where Wolverine's just burning off layers, but healing. He's able to heal fast enough that he's not being killed by the guy. And then, of course, I think he just executes the kid in the cave, and that's the end of the issue. And I was like, that's an amazing story. But I don't know if I think those comics came out after... I don't know if they came out after the third one or before that or what. It felt like that part with the Phoenix kind of burning him off was kind of stolen from that little issue of the comic or something. Just somebody in the writing of the script or something read that and said, well, it'd be cool if we threw that in. And that's just what that whole movie kind of felt like to me. And then after that, we got Origins Wolverine.
Now, that was supposed to be the beginning of a series of movies where they were going to have like Magneto origins, and there are other origin stories.
They'd just done a comic that was like Wolverine Origins that I think was called that, super popular, and I think that might have been kind of what led to that. And
they touched on. I bought that series at the time, one of the few X-Men properties that I actually bought as a comic, and they touched on some of the story in Wolverine Origins. So I definitely think that there was an inspiration.
But what I wrote down for that is that was the one that gave us the bad Deadpool, which might have been the whole reason we got Deadpool movies.
I legitimately forgot about that. Yes.
That's the one where he's
got no mouth,
sewn up, and
the merc with the mouth without a mouth.
You almost got Gambit right in that one, but not really all the way there. I forget that there was a Blob in that one.
Yeah, I thought the Blob was pretty good.
The Blob was pretty good.
It was accurate.
I guess you had more. You have Liev Schreiber at that point was playing Sabretooth. It was pretty good casting for Sabretooth, I thought. But
Yeah,
then they mix in the story too, though, of Wolverine's kind of wife, the other girl that had the Wolverine powers and had claws and stuff. Was it Yuki?
Silver Fox? No.
Silver Fox. It seemed like they kind of mixed a couple stories into like one character in that. And
I haven't seen that film since it first came out, so I'm not I don't have a real good recollection of the events. Yeah. The thing I remember most are the horrible CG claws. Yeah. It was terrible.
And they were just throwing. It seemed like they were just throwing pieces of different comics at us at that point, like not even no unity between what we were getting. It was just.
Well, you were talking about fan service with Terminator 3. I think Wolverine Origins was just a movie built on fan service.
Yeah.
I think they were trying to do right by the fans.
Yeah.
Deadpool aside.
I think it's like you get to like. There must have been a point at some point where the people getting involved in these movies, it's almost like M. Night Shyamalan trying to do the Last Airbender series.
Yeah.
You could just tell it was a movie that was made by somebody who either never watched it all or didn't pay attention to it or something. And it seems like that's what started to happen in these movies is that if, really good Marvel stuff, like the Jon Favreau stuff, like the Iron Man movies, obviously he knew Iron Man. He knew how to make those movies. He made really good movies. But these were just, doesn't seem like they were made by people that really knew what they were doing.
They're made by like a corporate mandate.
Yeah.
We need this film for Logan because he's so popular.
And then that was followed by First Class, which
was a great reboot,
except for the Hellfire Club. Hellfire Club part of that pissed me off.
Yeah, why?
Because that was supposed to be part of the Phoenix story.
Right.
They were there to try to, in the cartoon, they lured her into their club and made her think that she was like in this kind of Victorian era or whatever that time frame was. That they were all fancy English people so they could control the Phoenix. And this was just Kevin Bacon and
oh, that's right. He played
the leader of the Hellfire Club, Sebastian Shaw. Is that right?
Yeah, I think so. Let's see.
Definitely on the limits of how much memory storage I've got in my 50-year-old brain.
Yeah, Sebastian Shaw, you're right.
And you had Emma Frost in that too. That was kind of, she again seems like she should have been kind of maybe a bigger character, but she was just sort of a henchman in that one too, sort of for him. But the other parts of it where they cast James McAvoy as Xavier and the younger
Fassbender.
Magneto, Fassbender for Magneto, those are excellent. And Jennifer Lawrence is they call her Raven. What's her real name?
Mystique.
Mystique. Thank you. I was going to say Nightcrawler. I knew that one right. Nightcrawler is supposedly her child.
So we'll have two agreements and one disagreement there. I think I don't envy anyone that has to come after the absolutely fantastic casting
of Ian,
of Patrick Stewart.
Oh, Xavier, yeah,
as Xavier.
Yeah.
I think the casting of the first X-Men film was almost flawless.
Yeah.
So having James McAvoy and Michael Fassbender and Jennifer Lawrence coming in and trying to fill those shoes, I don't envy any of them. They had huge shoes to fill. Yeah. But I think McAvoy and Fassbender, they performed impeccably. I think they did an excellent job at embodying those characters.
When you get a movie that has a sort of a really important duet of guys, whatever, at the head of it, you have to have some kind of chemistry between the two for it to work right, and those two worked well together. They seemed to fit.
I felt like Jennifer Lawrence as Mystique or Raven or whoever. I feel like that reeked of the producer overreach.
Yeah.
The fact that she was a good guy, that was what?
Yeah.
Okay, that makes no sense.
But she's an assassin.
Yeah.
I mean, she's always been one.
And Jennifer Lawrence having to follow up Rebecca Romaine Stamos.
Oh, I forgot.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
I'm sorry, Jennifer. You're a great actress, but the follow up was not good.
Yeah.
So I think the character was just from the origin, from the idea of of Mystique being in first class. I think it was misguided.
Yeah, it was a good reset movie. Yeah. The handling of the Hellfire Club was my issue with that one.
So I guess I feel like about Mystique what you feel about the Hellfire Club.
Yeah.
It was like it was the wrong time period. It was the wrong reason.
Yeah. Then that's followed up by The Wolverine.
The Wolverine. I didn't care for it. Okay. I thought it was universally loved.
I think I've watched it like twice.
Yeah.
And it's just it's again, I don't know enough of the canon of Silver Samurai and the other stuff to know how much they murdered that, but it felt to me like they murdered whatever it was. It didn't seem right.
See, the general consensus from what I've heard, from what I've seen anyway, it seems like people like the Wolverine. Like they felt it was a more accurate portrayal of Logan.
Well, yeah, it's probably good in the sense that it gave you just back to Hugh Jackman just playing Wolverine and not all the other crap that they get. The more the other characters that you put in, the more chances you have to get it wrong, I guess. Mm-hmm. And I guess by keeping it as a smaller story, that part was better. But there were some really random mutants in that too, that I don't know how much of that was shoehorned in, or if it's just stuff from that comic series that they did fit in.
I have no idea. I never read any of the. I know there was a comic run where he was in Japan and all that. I never read any of that.
Then they come back from there to Days of Future Past, which I thought was a good effort, but just.
That was a time travel one.
That's the one where they start off with the already evolved Sentinels that you can't fight, and then them going back into time and trying to stop I guess it would have been the killing of, was it Nixon? And
see, I would say that I think as good as X2 was to X-Men, I would say Days of Future Past was to First Class.
Yeah.
I think both of them were solid follow-up films that built on the previous.
It's one of the few ones, if I ever see it on something, like if it's on like at a hotel on a channel, I'll stop and watch that one, because it is rewatchable.
In pieces too. Like you could just watch a couple scenes and be like, that was cool.
What is the guy from the Future Past cartoon episodes that has the charged gun? Bishop. It's like they got him there, but I wanted more Bishop in that movie.
Yeah, Bishop was one of the few characters that if I saw Bishop on a cover of a comic and at the comic shop, I'd pick it up and look at it. Yeah, I loved Bishop.
Just a badass character, and you never even got Cable, the one that came into the Deadpool movies. He should have been in that story, and he wasn't at all.
Yeah,
and you got like the weird Indian dude that I think he was part of X-Force. So again, it was like where they were sampling from all these like different comics. It's almost like we have 8 different comic series here. Let's get a character from each one. Let's put him into the movie. Because I don't even remember what his name is. Is he Apache?
Oh, I have no idea.
But he's part of the X-Force stuff where they're just a team of assassins. I know that much. Yeah. But he's just there without any explanation in this one other than, hey, look, we got a guy from this one book that you guys like.
Well, they kind of needed that because he was in the future part, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they needed expendable characters for that. I think that was just
the girl that was making the ports. You actually had probably the best portrayal of Bobby as Iceman, where he was actually doing the sliding around on the paths that he makes for himself with ice, like he's supposed to from the old cartoons. Even you remember the old Amazing Spider-Man cartoon that had Firestar and him in it?
Yeah.
That's always been. It's like I always wanted that Iceman, and that's one of the only movies that really got it right.
And this is the film that gave us Evan Peters as.
And which one is that?
Yeah, as Quicksilver.
Oh yeah.
I was trying to think it was that. I was like, he's the character that is also in the MCU.
That's the slow mo scenes where he's. Yeah. Those are pretty epic. I do like that.
I definitely think that was the highlight of the film.
I think this is kind of where this series too kind of just fell off the rails. Is they had a chance to follow that up maybe with. That's the biggest frustration I've always had with this is the big Sentinels from the cartoon. You've never gotten a daggone movie where they're fighting the Sentinels.
Yeah. Well, we got that one scene. I forget which film it was in, but it was like in the war room.
Yeah.
Was that this movie?
It was, yeah. Yeah, but there was never like a thing like where they're, the opening of the cartoon was the Sentinels like tearing them all apart, trying to catch Jubilee, and that's how they made Jubilee. And all the times that Wolverine would just climb up a Sentinel with his claws and just be tearing them apart. It's like you never got that on film. It's like,
I think maybe
it's so hard to do.
I think maybe the concept of Sentinels is a bit much for live action. Yeah. Well, you have these giant robots walking around just hunting mutants. Come on.
I don't know. That's what that would have been my focus of a movie if it was up to me.
But, well, they did touch on it.
Yeah. Then from there they go to the Deadpool movie, which I guess is not really an X-Men movie, but it kind of gives you at least a proper Colossus.
Yeah. I kind of disappointed he was never not in his like armored up form. Yeah. I thought that was a weird creative decision. Yeah. I don't know why they did that.
Yeah. The rest of that movie is kind of a Deadpool movie, so I'm not going to get into too much of that. But I threw that in there just because they start to actually...
Well, it is a part of the franchise.
It was kind of funny. Is it in that movie? Is it in the second one where like they open a door and there's like Beast and a bunch of other guys that are like
That's the second one.
Is that the second one? And they kind of look at him and like close the door.
Was it the first one?
I don't remember which one, but
no, I feel like the second one, because the first one they made the joke about not being able to afford any of the other actors in the first one, because it was just
in the second one they just had like a little scene. It's like we're not coming.
It was just Negasonic and Colossus in the first one.
Yeah. Then that was followed by Logan, which was an excellent movie, but as far as the X-Men franchise, I have no idea where that came from.
There's a kind of like Wolverine Origins had a Wolverine Origin comic series. Yeah. There was a comic series called Old Man Logan. Yeah. And this drew inspiration from that. But as far as I understand, it was very loosely inspired.
It's a good movie on its own. I didn't have any time with any of the Old Man Logan comics or anything, so I didn't have any expectations. I enjoyed that movie. I knew a little bit of what was her?
X-23.
X-23. I couldn't remember if she was X2 or if she was X something. I kind of was familiar with the character, but I didn't really know any of the story, so I was kind of fine with that.
I read the X-23 series back when it first came out. So I was familiar with that character going into it. I think they did a fine job.
Yeah. So that one, good movie, but I don't think it's anything to discuss beyond that.
I know it's in the continuity of the X-Men series, but I still feel like Logan is like an external continuity film. Yeah. It doesn't really, to me, it doesn't really make sense in line with any of them. And I'm sure if you did a timeline of the X-Men, it'd be like a Spiderweb or something. Yeah. Yeah. Because at some point they tried to. In Apocalypse? Was it Apocalypse?
And I did skip that.
You just skipped that?
Apocalypse came out after Deadpool, before Logan.
Before Logan, yeah.
I skipped Apocalypse because everybody
should skip Apocalypse.
It's the worst villain ever. He's the most like menacing character in the cartoon, to the point that you're like you're frightened for the cartoon characters because Apocalypse is there, and you get. Was it Oscar Isaacs that plays him? And he's like a little dude in a blue suit. Looks like he's
so small.
Yeah, he looks like he's like a guy going to play
cosplay. He's
at a con. And they get like another kind of cool Quicksilver scene, and that's really all I remember from that of being anything positive.
We did get the metal wings for Archangel. That was cool. Yeah. Psylocke was because of Olivia Munn. Yeah. Because she was insistent on her costume being comic accurate, we got a comic accurate Psylocke for the most part, but she had like boob windows for some reason. Whatever.
What was the there was a video game that I played for a while. It was like an overhead view X-Men game. It's a great game. But Psylocke you could play as X-Men Legends, I think is what it was called.
There's a few of them.
But kind of again got into it after getting into the first couple movies, and you could kind of character build up, strengthen your characters and level them up and all this stuff. And I remember playing Psylocke as one of my main people in that because it was a really powerful character in the game. It had a lot of stuff with what are the guys that live down in the sewers? still say the Juggernauts. That's not right. The the Morlocks.
Okay.
The big arc of that is like Morlock stuff, and then you get back into the Sentinel stories that should have been made into movies, but yeah, it was probably an early 2000s video game. But
yeah, they had
very,
a few.
very good game. I remember Psylocke from that, and you got like, what was it, Storm became one of the Four Horsemen, or was trying to be, I don't know. That movie was
probably Legends 2004.
X-Men Legends, is it? Yeah. It was a great game. That's the only reason I even knew who Psylocke was because of that game. But
I knew her from the X-Men cards that I collected in the 90s, early 90s.
So that happened before Logan. Then Logan was followed by Deadpool 2, which we've already said. That was just, as far as the X-Men goes, that was a course correction for Juggernaut and Colossus, and you got a good fight there. They say now for a big CG fight.
Cable was cool.
Yeah, Cable was cool. Kind of weird in that story. I remember he was really involved in the whole the Days of Future Past story where they're trying to keep Xavier from getting killed. And then remember the cartoon, they showed a future after Xavier was gone where like Wolverine and Storm were married or in love. They were like a couple, but they were two of the only ones left, and they were still fighting these like Sentinels that you couldn't fight because they were just so overpowered.
Well, the reason they had Cable in it is after the first Deadpool series, the follow-up series to that, there was a couple, but the one that was kind of popular was Cable and Deadpool. Like there was a whole series where they were like a buddy team.
I gotcha.
At one point they had a baby. It was a fun series. But I think that's the whole reason Cable was in that, is because Deadpool fans liked Cable and Deadpool.
Yeah.
I was actually surprised that the film wasn't called Cable and Deadpool because of that.
So
I think overall the Deadpool films, and we're going to include the Deadpool Wolverine, I think that Deadpool films are a highlight of the X-Men series.
Yeah. Deadpool 2 was followed by the Dark Phoenix, which my note beside that says it's so bad I can't even remember it. There was
a train thing. I don't know.
Good enough. And then that was followed by the New Mutants, which...
Okay, I liked that. I did like that.
I like the idea of it being kind of a horror movie.
Yeah.
It was kind of
Magic
weird.
was cool. I didn't know who Magic was. That was Anna Taylor-Joy played Magic.
Yeah.
So she was a cool character.
And that was, at that point, I was almost just expecting everything that had anything to do with X-Men to just be bad. So I watched it once, and I don't think I ever watched it a second time, so I can't...
Well, along with Logan... At this point, I would watch the movie and I would just consider it its own thing. Like I wasn't trying to think about it in connection with any of the other films or in continuity with the other films. I was just taking it as its own thing.
Yeah.
And as its own thing, I thought it was great.
Then following that was Deadpool and Wolverine. And at that point, I had given up on everything Marvel, so I didn't even see it.
Oh, you've never seen it?
Nope.
It's fun. It's a fun time. If you could pick it apart. It was it's very clearly on like a sound stage, or maybe it was even on that wall that they used for the Mandalorian. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Maybe even that. I mean, it's very CG heavy.
When somebody
all the colors are flat. I mean,
when somebody buys Marvel back away from Disney and just comes out and just makes a video where they just sit at the desk and say, "I'm sorry," I'll get back into that stuff, but I've stopped. I've stopped trying on that because it is my money. And too many times I've spent money on stuff and just been like, wow, that was a waste of money. And I'm just tired of funding you destroying our properties that we enjoy.
There is, and this goes for Marvel in general, but there is a level of quality you have to expect that is lower.
Yeah.
You can't go in there expecting, tight continuity, compelling narratives. You're in there watching the equivalent of someone bash action figures together.
Yeah.
And if you go in with that mindset, hey, show me some dangling keys, jingle, jingle, jingle. If you go in there expecting that, you won't be disappointed.
I can sit here and read a comic at home and spend less money.
Yeah. That's
kind of my approach on those.
Yeah.
I can pick one out that I've read 5 times that I enjoy and just read it again and enjoy it again.
So I have a hard time, especially like with the Deadpool series. I was a huge fan of any X-Men franchise any X-Men character, I was a fan of Deadpool.
Yeah.
I got to know Deadpool because of a comic, I think it was Deadpool 11, in like 1999, where Deadpool goes back in time, knocks out Peter Parker, and takes Peter Parker's place as Spider-Man. And what the comic did was it took the comic from like back in the 60s, like took the actual comic and inserted Deadpool into the frames.
Okay.
And I thought that was so clever.
Yeah.
And at that point I was like, I got to see more of this guy.
Yeah.
And I fell in love with the character of Deadpool. The fact that he was a tortured person,
yeah,
and he wanted to do right, but he just couldn't.
Yeah.
And I really liked that about his character. And I feel like if I was being nitpicky with the Ryan Reynolds film version of Deadpool, I could see a place where I could see a point to where I would dislike it.
Yeah.
There was a lot of things that it missed from the comic character, yeah, but I just kind of appreciated that we got what we got.
He wants to be too likable.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Well, the way, and I definitely feel this way about the Deadpool character in the comics, is Deadpool became a clown.
Yeah.
He is the punchline.
Yeah.
And I didn't care for that.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed what the films did. And because I went in there and I kind of went in there, I was like, hey, you know what? I'm gonna take this film as it is, similar to how I took the New Mutants. And we're like, well, I'm gonna just judge the film based on what the film offers. Yeah. I'm not kind of trying to compare anything. I'm just gonna be like, well, let me see about the film itself as it's presented. Yeah. And with the Deadpool films, I enjoyed it. X-Men Phoenix, I did not. I did not.
We saw that in a theater at some point, and I remember thinking at some point, it's like, man, we could have done something else this afternoon.
Now, unlike some of the others we're talking about, this had a lot of ups and downs. Like X-Men 1 and 2, good. X-Men 3, not good.
Yeah.
Origins, not good. First Class, good. I mean, ups and downs, up and down. I do think it was mishandled, but it wasn't just a complete downward trajectory like the Terminator was.
You could go through and you could cut out pieces of it, and it would be one of the best things that's ever been done.
Oh yeah.
But that's why I threw it as my number one mishandled, is because there's so many entries there that I'm like, what are you doing? What are you doing?
What are you doing?
And it was like, what cleaning bottle did you drink?
Yeah.
that made you make this movie? And
I think one of the things
I drank toilet duck.
I think probably the most down I felt about the series was Phoenix, but second to that was Apocalypse. I did not care much for Apocalypse, and I think one of the reasons that Apocalypse was such a downer is the character of Thanos in the MCU was done so well, and he was a large and imposing character.
Oh, yeah.
So as you were talking about Oscar Isaacs, wait, his name?
Yeah,
Oscar Isaacs. Being kind of a smaller character. They didn't even like CG him up. They could have done that. Or done like forced perspective or something.
You actually get to see what most Hollywood actors are, is that they're 5'6",
and
little tiny guys, and they just
small.
didn't bother to make him bigger at all.
And the fact that we had Josh Brolin as Thanos as this imposing figure, it just made that worse, I think.
You've seen Josh Brolin, right?
He's a big dude.
No, he's not.
Oh, he's not?
He's a little short dude.
What? No way. I'm going to look up his height.
But they
did a good job.
Everybody has the impression that he's this massive dude because of Thanos. But what was the series?
5'10". He's an inch taller than me. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Well, they film him large.
There he's next to his wife.
I'm assuming it's his
taller.
wife. Yeah. She is in heels, but still.
But yeah.
Wow. Well, good on them. They did a good job. They did a really good job because he does seem large and
it's
capable.
One of the Sicario movies where like they're shooting a far away scene, and most of the time he's sitting down, so he does look kind of big against everybody else.
Yeah.
They show him stand up, and it's like you almost laugh because it's like, look at the little guy.
oh my goodness! This is him with Ryan Reynolds. Wow.
Yeah.
I had no idea. Well, good job, effects people on that one.
Everybody has the impression that he's like this massive.
Yeah, I thought if you would ask me how tall he was, I'd be like, oh, 6'4".
Yeah.
Yeah. Great. Oh.
Yeah.
Good job.
You got little Oscar Isaacs like, Apocalypse. It's
Right.
like patting him on the head like, okay, Apocalypse. Stop trying to enslave us all.
He's 5'9".
That's
amazing.
I'm surprised he's that tall.
That's amazing. Like, he's only an inch shorter, but on film they played him so much smaller.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. All right. Well, what's the worst? What is, out of all those, if you had to say one X-Men film was the worst?
X3 really was the one that
X3?
just didn't angers me.
Yeah.
Because I think it came in a spot where they were building it to where this next one should be. This should be the one that like just should be massive and it's great, and it's like what on earth? If
they had Sentinels in that, if that was kind of like where they were going, that would have been pretty good.
Yeah, I mean,
and it's, you know what, I would say, being that X3 is by many people's standards considered to be the worst X-Men film, we're lucky we got so many of them.
Yeah,
we really are.
Yeah. All right, so moving on.
Speaking of lucky that we got, this is your what was it, number 3?
Yeah,
this is the one you're.
This is the one I've probably put into a list that most people probably don't add. It was kind of one that I wanted to, because again, when I start talking about my favorite movies of all times, Unbreakable is definitely in the top 10. I don't know, it probably changes position between 4 and 10, drifting back and forth, just depending on what other things I've seen recently. But the concept of that movie just hit a lot of chords with me. This was right after he did the Sixth Sense thing, which everybody that thinks M. Night Shyamalan, I See Dead People, he's forever branded with that.
Hey, if you're going to be branded with something, that's a pretty good thing to be branded with.
It was an okay movie. I didn't even have it spoiled. It's not like one of those movies that you go back and watch because you already know what it's happening.
Oh man, now you rewatch it and you
rewatch it once and you see all the things.
Okay, yeah.
And then after
you get the moments where, oh, we should have seen it there. We should have seen it there. Oh, that's foretelling.
But it was just a trick on movie.
Yeah.
This one was, I think, a great movie, and it taps the idea. The concept of the movie is that superheroes, they're just people that have tapped into something that's either
they're on the extremes,
hidden or ancient, or that your brain can't unlock, because our brain, always talk about how much of your brain you actually use. Mm-hmm. And the whole concept of that was super appealing to me, just because of so many things that I've kind of experienced growing up. As a little side story, a scoutmaster flipped over a case tractor on himself over here on the farm not too far from here. His wife, smaller than Martha, smaller than my wife, it was a jogger, really fit. She went and got a pole that's like a thing. She couldn't have moved it by herself under any other circumstances. I don't know that you and I would, if we were carrying it across a field, would probably have to stop and put it down a couple times. She went and got this pole from a barn. I think it was going to be a thing they were going to either hang like a light or something on, that they were going to have to plant down into the ground with concrete, drug it across the field, wedged it under a full-size case tractor, not like a little mini farm tractor, like one of the big air-conditioned cab ones, and pried the tractor off of him.
Wow.
And bent the pole.
Wow.
Bent the pole. And I don't know if they still have the pole out there on their property somewhere. Didn't bend it 90 degrees, but bent it, like that.
Jeez.
And got him out. And it's like, you go back and see something like that, and how is that possible? It's like there's just no way that she could do that. There's no way I could do that.
Yeah, the stereotype is that little old lady lifting the car off of her grandkids.
Yeah, and then I got into distance running and stuff when I was coming through. Always kind of was mediocre. Then we got this dude that was like a marathoner. He finished 4th in the Olympic trials in '96, the Atlanta ones. Who just was completely focused on unlocking human potential. And he taught us to do it through diet and just building yourself through the course of a week, building yourself to race on Saturday. That you would eat protein on this day, and then you'd eat carbs on this day. And then he never suggested it because he knew how parents would react to it, but he kind of told us about it, that you would fast on the day before a race. And then that fasting kind of just heightens all of your senses. And then I went from running 6 minute and 30-second miles to being on the edge of breaking 5-minute miles in the course of a year. And learning how to, when you hit that first wall of your legs, saying, stop it, this hurts, to be nah. And you just gear up and you power on. And so just the whole concept of I could talk about all that kind of stuff forever, but the idea that this kind of came into the movies with these guys that are just normal people, and they really got kind of hashed out more in the sequel, in the Split in the Split one. But the first movie, small story, it really was just Bruce Willis and Samuel Jackson, David Dunn, and Elijah Price, I think is Mr. Glass's name. The way that build, they just kind of slowly built up everything there, and you're starting to kind of see, it's like, how did he live through the crash? And then he's lifting weights with this kid, and he goes from like having 220 pounds on it to like over 350 pounds. And Bruce Willis, talking about short actors.
Yeah, that was a great scene.
Little like 5'7", 5'8" dude, benching like that, and like, tie some paint cans on there, and you're like, okay.
I like M. Night Shyamalan as a writer, but I really like the scenes that he plays in. Yeah. With that scene in particular where he's lifting the weights, how the camera pushes in and pulls out with his breaths. Yeah. Fantastic. Yeah. Yeah.
There's a lot of shot framing scenes. Elijah, when he falls down the steps and he's broken his leg again, and like he's laying there.
You can feel it.
He's laying there upside down, and you see the guy jump the fence, and he's got the pistol, and you're like,
in his waistband.
Some of that was just genius filmmaking. But you go from that one to.
Did you see the ending coming?
No, the first time I was watching it, just kind of riding it, like, what is this?
That's a good way to put it. I generally ride films. I don't try to sit there and figure it out. But yeah,
I wasn't really trying to outguess it, and you get to the point where he's trying to develop the idea that he could touch somebody and see bad things, and then that he actually becomes a real life superhero in Philadelphia. And I was like, this might be one of the best superhero movies that's ever been made. And why I don't know if people throw it into that discussion or not, but I think it is. And
I think it, similar to Mystery Men that I was talking about a little while ago, I think it suffers from the release time. Yeah. I think this movie released today would have been appreciated a lot more than it was.
Well, that's where this one comes into the mishandled part of it, right? Because it's followed up with Split 16 years later. Yeah, it's like, what are you doing? It's like if he could have taken all this, and I'll get to all of these things. If he could have taken these 3 films and done them in a period of like 5 years, I think it'd be one of the greatest franchises that's ever been out there.
I don't think he intended on continuing the series. Yeah. I think Split was, like, maybe he had the idea 15 years later, but I think that it was something that he thought, like, at least what it seems like, he had the idea for Split, thought it was cool, and then thought, hey, I could insert this into the Unbreakable series.
And I think he'd come back to, I don't think it's something he was thinking of at the end, all the way from the first one to then. I think it is something he sort of shoehorns in. Right. But like, one of the things I've seen him say is that Split is the movie about the Horde and all the personalities that James McAvoy's character Kevin has because he was abused. Mm-hmm. And they say that in the stadium, right before he actually meets him, M. Night Shyamalan, and he thinks he's hidden drugs on him, and he comes up to talk to him about that.
In the first film?
In the first film. He bumps into this lady that's dragging a kid, and like his senses go off, but he doesn't really react to it because he doesn't.
Yeah, I remember he kind of like looks back, but then
he has said later that that's Kevin and his mom.
Nice. Okay.
And I'm like,
I like that.
It's like, did you mean that at the time, or is that just something that you kind of?
No, that's the little boy in Iron Man 2 is Peter Parker. Yeah. That Tony Stark saves. Yeah. That's them saying, well, we can kind of retcon this to kind of tie them in together.
And
that's a cool thought though.
The Split, completely devoid of Bruce Willis for the movie. It's just James McAvoy. Yeah. And again, it's a sequel movie that I think was, I can't say that it's better, but it's really dang close to being better than the first movie.
They're so different. I can't really.
And
you can't really compare them because
you can't compare them because they were 16 freaking years apart. Well, if this had come out like summer of whatever year it came out, 90, was it
2000?
2000?
Yeah, 2000.
If this had come out in summer of 2002, then it would be, you would not think of one without the other.
Right.
But it's just so random. And I say it may be being better than Unbreakable because James McAvoy playing the 24 personalities of Kevin is massively underrated acting. It's just the way he portrays and switches between the characters. It reminds me of, it's kind of another like sort of small movie that nobody ever knows or thinks of as like Nefarious, where Sean Patrick Flannery portrays that guy that's like demon possessed that's getting ready to be executed. Probably one of the best acting jobs of that year. But because that movie was a little bit of a Christian film, people, they want to poo-poo it and shove it off and not talk about it. And that's kind of how I feel about like James McAvoy and this playing the Horde. Is like, how is that not mentioned above like his best acting jobs ever? You know, he's mainly playing those three people. He's playing Patricia, the lady that's trying to sort of control all of the personalities. Hedwig, like the little kid version that's tries to be friends with Anna. Is it Anna Taylor-Joy? Anna Joy Taylor.
Anna Taylor-Joy.
Anna Taylor-Joy. Anna Taylor-Joy.
Casey.
Yeah, Casey. And then he's playing Dennis, that's kind of the serious guy. But then there's other ones that kind of pop in and out. Mm-hmm. And it's all of them are like this group of people that are aware of the beast and trying to keep it at bay and not let it come out. And that whole concept of the beast kind of comes back to what I was talking about with like the tractor stuff and the learning to control your body and fasting. It's like he becomes a beast by just increasing his like blood pressure and increasing his muscle mass and his strength, and just spiking your blood pressure and releasing adrenaline and just causing this reaction in your body to where his muscles are so dense that he can, at the end of the movie, he takes 2 shotgun blasts and they don't even penetrate him.
That's one thing that I really enjoy about both of these films, or the series, I guess you could say, is the grounded nature of superheroes.
Yeah.
So many times a superhero story will try to like be like, oh, we're going to be more realistic. Yeah. But then they end up flying around or something. You know, they end up being unrealistic.
At the end of that movie, go ahead.
All of this power is in there. Even the power of, you know, kind of like clairvoyantly figuring out when people's done something wrong. You could say, well, he's picking up on the pheromones and the fear response of the person. The person has anxiety and he's picking up on that anxiety. Yeah. So while he might not know exactly what they've done, he knows they've done something wrong. Yeah. You know, so all of the powers in this world make sense within the confines of humanity. Like you believe that someone could do this. He takes
those 2 shotgun blasts and like bends these bars trying to get to her, and then sees that she's scarred and decides that she's clean because she's been abused too. Mm-hmm. And another thing they kind of work into that movie that's powerful, and it's not pleasant. I hate thinking about anything from a movie that involves some guy molesting or doing something to a child. That just pisses me off. But that's how, like, his connection with is Casey and a Taylor-Joy. And then like later at the end of that movie, like he's somewhere looking at himself. It's like, I stopped a shotgun blast. It's like he didn't even know he could do that. Mm-hmm. And that development of a character, superhero or bad guy, supervillain, is, I think, just so overlooked. And I think it just didn't land because it was 16 years after. If it had followed this and Bruce Willis was involved, and maybe even if he's not a big part of the movie, you could have just had a couple little like scenes to keep him active in it, knowing that you're going to do the 3rd movie. It would have tied these movies together.
I do kind of feel kind of like I've been critical of other films. There wasn't enough, and maybe it was that there was enough time with the character, Bruce Willis's character. But like, what's he been doing for 16 years? Has he been doing this superhero thing? Why isn't that talked about at all?
You wouldn't have had to do it, because if it had just been a couple years later, it would have been him
still figuring stuff out.
Yeah, and
by 16 years later, like he should have showed up halfway through the film because he knew this stuff was going on. Yeah, you know, he should have honed his skills to that point.
They start out Glass, the last one that came out in 2019, so it was still 3 years getting to that. Yeah. After the other one.
See, I feel as if the mishandling of the franchise is 100% on the shoulders of Glass. Yeah. I can accept that at 16 years later just because of the realities of movie making. Yeah.
Again, if this had all followed within like a 5-year period, you'd view the whole thing differently.
Yeah, if Glass was in like 2009 or 2008, yeah.
And they actually are calling him the Overseer, David Dunn, that because that's kind of the name he's been characterized as, the guy that walks around in the hood. Right. and his son is kind of doing the Alfred thing. You know, they have a little security store, but he's that's the secret headquarters, and that would have been so much better too if he was like a young teenage son that was still just in awe of his dad being a superhero.
Not an adult.
Yeah, he's grown at that point. And it's like, again, what have y'all been doing for all this time? It didn't work because of that. And they're doing that. They're tracking like the beast, and he abducts the cheerleaders. And then they all get caught and take him to, basically it's like a real life Arkham. They take him to an institution, and that whole, there's a bunch of stuff that goes on there. It leads up to the fight between all of them, and you find out the Glass has just been kind of stonewalling everybody, and then he's planning to unleash the beast at like this tower in Philadelphia and blow up a chemical lab so he can try to blow up and kill a bunch of more people. And I guess he's still just obsessed with trying to find other superheroes, which again, that part of the story would have worked with the rest of this. But then you just get to this
15 years ago.
but then you get to this just stupid writing where, like, and this is a spoiler, if you don't want it spoiled, it's spoiled. Casey, she can get the beast to revert to Kevin by saying his actual name. She says his name, he stops being the beast, and a sniper kills him. Yeah. And you're like, what? I was like, that's... And then on top of that, you add insult to injury, David Dunn gets drowned by an anonymous SWAT guy in a puddle. And at that point, I'm just like throwing up my hands like, what the freak is happening?
That was the point at which I wrote Glass off.
Yeah.
David Dunn did not have to die.
That's where
he just didn't.
This is mishandled. If you think about the career that Bruce Willis could have had, I mean, yeah, could have had. He has an amazing career. But the other stuff, they're kind of reinvigorated career he could have had as a superhero back in the late 2000s, playing the overseer and developing the story. Because you get this other thing that's thrown into at the end of the movie where the doctor, I think her name's Ellie, that you find out that she's actually part of this like secret organization that's trying to find all these potential superhumans, get them into institutions and find out what their weakness is and kill them. And there's your TV series for Netflix or for Apple or whatever. You could do any kind of property with that wouldn't even involve these guys, and it'd be so easy to tie into it. And like I said, then he tries to sort of tie in that stuff from the first movie, which I think was a decent attempt at it. I don't think it's, again, something he thought that... I already talked about the bumping into the lady, that's Kevin and his mom. And you also find out, or they reveal in that movie, that Kevin Crumb, that his father was in the train. He was killed in the train that Glass wrecked to find David. So that he lets Kevin know that this guy that you're working for that's manipulating you killed your dad. That's why you got abused. And there were pieces there that could have made this, I think, one of the greatest series that could have ever been put together. And it definitely would be something I would put in front of things like the Avengers and some of this other superhero stuff, because done properly, those 3 movies would have been amazing. And you could have spun off into stuff if you wanted to. You could have let it die on the vine right there. But in terms of being mishandled, I don't know why he handled these properties the way he did. If you look at some of the bombs that he made in between,
right,
it's like, what were you doing?
I think it suffered from the timing.
Yeah,
I think the fact that Split was so far removed from Unbreakable, and that it seems like maybe it wasn't originally supposed to be associated in any way with Unbreakable.
Yeah, I think it was just a last minute tie-in.
And I think there was probably a desire from M. Night Shyamalan himself to make something bigger because of the success of the MCU.
Yeah.
And I think that's really what we saw, is he saw, well, I could do something here. But by the time he finished Glass, I think he realized that the time had passed. The time for this to actually happen has gone by. And
how many people that saw Glass and Split even knew of Unbreakable?
Yeah.
I mean, there's people that weren't even alive when Unbreakable came out that might have seen Split in the theater and been like, wow, that's cool. Why was Bruce Willis at the end of it?
Yeah. I would definitely like to have seen a series, maybe another movie where the Overseer was doing his thing.
Yeah.
You know? And then, I mean, Split could have been exactly what it was still. They're like, hey, here's another movie by M. Night Shyamalan. Hey, surprise, it's in this world.
Yeah.
And again, I kind of think there should have been another film in between Split and Glass. I feel like it was a rushed narrative. Yeah. He was, the Glass was him just saying, well, I've established this world, so let me tie it up.
And you don't kill these two guys off.
No.
Even if you kill off Glass. Yeah. If Glass gets killed off, he needs to get killed by the Beast.
Kill Glass off, set up another villain of some sort. I mean, you could have set up Anna Taylor-Joy's character as a villain for something.
Yeah, I mean, she was the one that could connect with him. Mm-hmm. You could see where she could have been romantically attracted to him or one of the characters, and she could have been the one that managed the Beast, and she could have become an evil genius.
Yeah,
because
I could have seen her be some sort of protege character for Glass, and it could have worked.
So many missed opportunities with that one. That's a big one for me because it was great first movie, a great second movie, and even with the late second movie, you see what could have happened, and it's like instead you were making Lady in the Water in an Avatar movie that you never even watched the series of, and what was the thing where like nature got mad and the grass was killing people?
Oh, with Wahlberg. The Unknown?
Whatever that awful thing was. That was the dumbest thing I think I've ever sat through.
The trees are attacking us.
It's like nature hates us.
And he did The Village as well.
The Village was another like cool thing, but it was just another gimmick movie. It's another great watch one time, and after you watched it, maybe watch it the second time to see what you might have not picked up on, and then you kind of don't watch it again.
Happening.
Yeah,
that was the one with the trees.
The crappening. Yeah. And Signs. I forget about
Signs. Was good.
I love Signs.
Yeah, Signs was good.
But again, so much time was wasted on just complete garbage, and I don't know what.
Well, I don't begrudge him for doing other things. But
I think what I
revisiting such an old property after so long.
I think what I understood about it, like Unbreakable and even Split, I think he funded them. Which again, they weren't big budget things, but they were big profit things. Like They again were like, I don't even know what the cost was, but I think they were $60 to $80 million box office things, and in the low $10 million budget kind of deal on those. So I don't know. That's the one that kind of tugs at me the most because I could see that just being potentially so good. And to me, it's just so mishandled, and especially because it's not based off of comic properties and all these things like all these other ones we're talking about are. This is a pretty unique creation, and I guess that's what bugs me about it is it was a chance to be original and be really good, and it just missed. So enough Unbreakable.
Yeah, that was yeah. It was a disappointing end to that series. That was for sure. Could have been something great.